I'm Micheal Cox. I am the director of the school counseling program here at Azusa Pacific University.
And I'm Michael Salce, the director of the school psychology program.
So we're hoping to answer questions that you have about our programs. This PowerPoint presentation should answer most, if not all of them, but we'll go through it and you know, if you have questions at the very end, if time allows, then we'll be happy to answer those questions then. So we'll get started.
Okay, so the programs that we do have in both school counseling and school psychology, we have the 48-unit educational counseling, the 60-unit educational and clinical counseling, the educational psychology program, which is the school psych program, MA, because in that program you get 2 degrees, so Ed Psych Masters and an educational specialist degree. There's 2 specializations within the school psych program, which is the Applied Behavioral Analysis program, which is the educational requirements for the BCBA, as well as the educationally related mental health specialization, which is the educational requirements for the LPCC, which we'll talk about a little more later. And then finally, we have our BCBA specialist. So it's a certification program. It's not attached to a master's degree.
And then one other program that is not here on the PowerPoint presentation is our clinical counseling certificate program. So that's actually a standalone certificate program as well. All right, and so one of the questions that are probably commonly asked, at least from students that I see, is about the job market. And so that's one of the things that you do want to kind of research a little bit before you make any choice of a graduate program. But this is one thing to consider. We're constantly looking at job projections, at least the outcome or the future projections for jobs. And so one of the things that are noted here with the BLS, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, is that by the year 2022, it's expected that we will see a 12% increase in educationally guidance and counseling and psych-related programs in schools. And so that's equivalent to about 31,000 new jobs. So that's promising. And that's within the state.
And if I could just add to that, school psychology, as far as school psychologists across the nation, there's a shortage. So much so that states like North Carolina have passed legislation to try to increase school psych programs, to increase the number of school psychs. California doesn't necessarily have a significant shortage, but there are plenty of jobs within the state. And since our program is nationally accredited, you can leave the state and work if you do attend our program.
Good to know, good to know. So again, we try to stay on top of employment opportunities. And so last night I took a look at EdJoin. EdJoin is actually the website that educators go to within the country to obtain job information. And so what I was able to find last night is approximately 230 school counseling and school psychology and related positions identified, and that's just within the state of California. So that actually looks good too for students who complete our program, at least one of our programs. So while kind of doing your research before making a decision on a graduate program, in EdJoin, it's important to note that there are related positions. So sometimes you're not able to find an abundance of jobs that are titled school counselor or school psych, but there are other related positions in schools that you would actually qualify for by completing one or more of our programs. And so we have a list here. I noticed that school districts are becoming very creative in some of the titles that they're developing for related programs. And so really be open-minded to other positions. If you're doing your search in EdJoin, you want to keep in mind that there are other certificated programs that you would qualify for as well. So again, we just wanted to point that out.
Okay, so the program requirements, coursework, which includes field work. In Ed Counseling, it's 16 courses. With Ed in Clinical Counseling, it's 20. So again, that's 48 and 60 units respectively there. Clinical Counseling Certificate is 4 courses. Educational psychology is 16. Ed specialist is 24. Typically, though, you wouldn't be in the program unless you took all of those courses, because you're in the program to get your credential, not just 2 degrees, but your credential so that you can be employed. Ed Psych with ABA specialization is 32 courses. Ed Psych, so your school psych credential with the prerequisites for the LPCC specialization, so that's clinical counseling, is 29 courses. And then finally, the ABA certificate program is 9 courses total, which includes the fieldwork courses, which are a unit apiece. Okay, so successful completion of the required courses is necessary to complete the program. Maintain a 3.0 throughout. Maintain a 3.0 GPA throughout the entire program. Successfully pass the competency exam, which is the praxis. And of course, complete practicum, which is more of watching and being supervised the whole time. And complete field work or internship, which is more you doing the work and then checking in with somebody who's doing your supervision over time. But those are the requirements for the program.
All right, so I'm going to focus on the educational counseling program next. So many questions are asked about clinical practica or practicum in the term that we use quite often, and then also fieldwork. Clinical practicum is basically going out getting that first initial hands-on experience, and so we do require that of students, and that's required in the 3rd term of the program. There are 100 hours of experience that are required in a clinical setting. And then students also have to be supervised on site. We want someone who either has a PPS credential in school counseling or to have the licensure in order to be a supervisor. You'll be required through practicum to meet with a student who is in grades 6 through 12, just one student, and you meet with that student 6 times for 30 minutes throughout an entire 16-week term. Students are not required to meet every week during clinical practica. In fact, within that 16-week term, you meet 5 times face-to-face in a class. But we do want to allow time for students to complete those hours in their specified settings. Then fieldwork is required in year 2 of the program. It's after you've completed the first 10 courses in the program. Students would complete 2 different fieldwork experiences. Each would be 300 hours, and they're usually done 1 per semester, although some students would like to, and it's allowed for them to double up and take both fieldwork experiences in 1 term. The terms for fieldwork are 16 weeks long. And so currently, there's a total of 600 hours that must be completed for fieldwork, again, 300 in each fieldwork experience. But the law is changing so that students will be required to complete 800 hours in school counseling fieldwork experience in 2021. So it's something to keep in mind, so that will increase shortly. We do want students to complete their hours at 2 different levels. And so what that means is that either you are going to complete it in an elementary or middle school setting, or maybe it's middle school, high school, or elementary, high school. So that's the student's choice, but there has to be 2 different levels, school levels, where the hours are completed.
Okay, so practicum for the school psychology program is 450 hours, which is done during your 2nd year. It's embedded in 3 courses. So you do 150 hours per course, 1 in the fall, 1 in the spring, 1 in the summer. So those are 16-week terms. So there's plenty of time. Tell most students that you could do that in probably 8 to 10 hours a week without much of an issue. Field work, on the other hand, is very different. It's more of a 35 to 40 hours a week in order to get all of the 1,200 hours done over 2 terms, which is 2 semesters. So that's over 2 16-week terms, 1,600 each term. So in order to do that and complete that your 3rd year, you would have to do probably about 35 hours a week. Okay, so the praxis exam is completed at the end of the program, although you could take it a little sooner. I tell students, why not? You're studying for that exam with every class you take, with every fieldwork experience you have. So give yourself some time. So it's completed at the end of the program to give you the best chance to pass it. Demonstrates competency with the correct score above the correct minimum score. Our program, our students typically do not have any issues passing that. We've had an excellent passing rate for some time. It's proctored off site. It's at a computer testing agency. What are those ETSs? Yes. So the required passing score for school counselor is 150, and for school psychologist is 147. Just to give you an idea, the school psychology mean was 161 this past year. So every student passed the first time.
Yeah, it's very rare, I think, that students don't pass the praxis. I think that we do a really good job in our program. We have wonderful instructors, professors who really prepare students well for the praxis exam. So it's very rare that a student doesn't pass. But if by chance, you don't pass, you're given another opportunity to retake it. And so we just make sure that our students are successful and provide the support that they need to be sure to complete the program successfully. So here's a recap of our degree program or requirements. For school counseling, as we mentioned, you must satisfactorily complete all of the required courses. So you must receive at least a B in each class to pass it. And we do want an overall GPA of 3.0. For practicum, again, that's completed in the third term of the program, and so 100 hours must be completed. Practicum really, I failed to mention this before, but practicum really is working on the basic counseling skills. So in the first course, students will receive information, knowledge, and training in that. And so by that third term, they're ready to go out and apply those skills. So in practicum, it's really just practicing exactly what the title says or suggests. They're practicing those skills in a clinical setting. So again, a school would be considered a clinical setting as well. And so then at the end of the program, in the second year, students are required to complete the 600 hours of field work. Again, that would be 2 different field work experiences, 300 each. And then students have to pass the praxis. So for school counseling, as Dr. Salce mentioned, the passing score for school counseling is 150.
And for school psychology, the same, satisfactory completion of all courses with a minimum of a B in each course, overall 3.0 GPA, and 1,650 total hours on site. K-12 is considered a clinical setting, so in a clinical setting, with 450 of those hours being during your second year, and 1,200 of those hours being your third year as an intern. And then, of course, passing the praxis exam. Okay, is this me? This is me.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so state licensure. So the specialization, as well as, okay, the educational and clinical 60-unit masters, as well as the specialization in school psych with the specialization in mental health, satisfies the educational requirements for a licensed professional clinical counselor, which is what LPCC stands for. After you graduate and your degree is conferred, you complete an application and you send that off to the Board of Behavioral Sciences, and they will issue you an intern number. And once you have that intern number, then under that intern number, you can start accruing your 3,000 hours of clinical experience. Once you've completed those, you can sit for the state exam. And once you pass that exam, you're not only either a school counselor or school psychologist, but also a master's level clinician. And you can practice both inside and outside of schools at a much higher level with regards to clinical counseling skills. Also the BCBA, so the specialization and their certificate, the standalone certificate in BCBA or in the ABA program, Applied Behavioral Analysis, satisfies the educational requirements for a board certified behavior analyst. That is someone who works in schools and in homes to help others to kind of alter their behavior and change their behavior for more positive ways. Often they work with students on the autism spectrum, but they are very valuable and marketable within the field as far as employment goes. So after completion of the program, if there's 1,500 hours of clinical experience, that you need to complete. And once you do that, you can sit for the board exam. In 2022, the number of hours is going to increase to 2,000 hours. The thing that's a little different about this program with regards to those hours is that you can start accruing those hours as soon as you start taking your first class, which is much different than the mental health specialization where you have to complete the entire program. Then you can start accruing hours. Here for the BCBA, you can start accruing those as soon as you start taking a class in that specific specialization.
All right, and again, here is some more specific information about our program. So as we mentioned, the educational counseling program is a 48-unit program, and so it takes about 18 months for students to complete that program. For educational and clinical counseling, the 60-unit program, it takes about 2 years or 24 months. Educational psychology, we're looking at 24 months to 36 months to complete that program. BCBA is about 8 months. And then for clinical counseling, for that certificate, it's a short certificate of only 4 classes. To qualify for it, students must have completed a counseling-related master's degree program, and then they would come back, pick up the 4 classes for the certificate. So 4 classes, students would take 2 per term, per 8-week terms. So about 4 months to complete that program. The clinical counseling certificate program really does just kind of enhance the master's degree. It won't qualify students for LPCC licensure, but it will at least provide them with some more specific clinical skills that would be acknowledged by a school district. Our class meetings, students usually take 2 classes per term. They have the option of taking them face-to-face, or we have about 50% of our program available online, or with clinical practica courses, those are hybrid. And so you actually would attend class just on occasion throughout the entire term. So our face-to-face class meetings meet 1 night per week per course. And those are usually Monday through Thursday from 4:45 to 9:30. And then I believe Dr. Salce could confirm this, but some Saturdays are required, I think, for the practicum for school psychology.
Yes, during your second year, we meet once a month just to touch base and see how the field experiences are going. Okay, so our programs are offered, the school psych program is offered in Azusa, Orange, Inland, and we just added the Murrieta campus this year. And we're trying to extend out into the San Diego and Riverside counties because there is a need out there. The BCBA at this point is only offered on the Azusa campus.
Yeah. And also school counseling is offered at our 6 campuses. Our main campus, Orange, High Desert, which would be Victorville, our Murrieta campus, Inland, which is San Bernardino, and San Diego. The LPCC program is only offered on the main campus in Azusa, Orange, and Murrieta campuses. Sometimes we have students who are interested in course waivers and transfer of credit into our program. And so we do review those upon acceptance into the program. And so once you're accepted, if you find that there's a course that you feel may be equivalent to one of the required courses in our program, you can simply complete a course substitution form to waive the course and also transfer the units in. We have a maximum percentage. Only 20% of the coursework required for your program can be transferred in. However, they must meet the requirements, which would be not being more than 5 years old. You must have received at least a B grade or higher to be transferred in. And then also it has to be completed at a regionally accredited university or college. So that's the end of our PowerPoint presentations. If you have questions, we're happy to answer those now. If you can just type them into the chat area on your screen. Otherwise, contact people are actually listed here. If you have any specific questions about the program, you can contact me. And what's so interesting about APU faculty is that sometimes the best way to reach us is via email. At least that's the case for me. So I'm all over the place. So, but I always have my phone with me, so I'm able to read that wherever I am. And so if you have an immediate question, you can always send me an email. Dr. Salce's information is listed here as well. And then if you have questions about the LPCC program, Dr. Judy Johnson is the LPCC coordinator in our department. Our coordinator of the BCBA program is Dr. Heather McGuire. And our fieldwork coordinator, if you have specific questions about fieldwork or if you're interested in only coming back to obtain your PPS credential, the person to talk to is Dr. Robert Martin. You have anything to add, Dr. Salce?
No, just thank you for your interest, and we hope that you decide to apply. Well, our application deadline, there's a priority deadline of May 1st, and then there's a kind of an end deadline of June 1st. So no later than June 1st to be considered for the only admission time, which is the fall. So we only admit students in the fall of every academic year. So May 1st or June 1st would be those deadlines. I tell students in the school psych program, you could probably maintain a full-time job without any problem the first year, because your classes, as we showed, are in the evenings. So if it's a business day that you have work, then you could do that. Second year, it would start to affect it, because you would need at least one day a week during school hours to do practicum. So yes, you still could do that, but the third year, it wouldn't be possible, because you need to do at least 35 hours a week during school hours. So that is pretty much during the business day. So you could the first year, some the second year, but not the third year.
For the school counseling program, I'd have to say that the majority of our students are working full-time. And so many of them get off work and they come to class. Classes, again, do start at 4:45, so it is possible to be able to manage that. Even once students enroll in clinical practica, even completing the 100 hours, what you need is some flexibility in being able to complete those hours sometime during the day, but you do have an entire 16 weeks to complete that practica. So it is possible to work full-time and do that. Same thing with fieldwork. Fieldwork is usually completed, again, in the second year, but students usually don't have any more than 4 classes to complete in order to start fieldwork. So even if they take the first fieldwork experience while enrolled in the last 4 classes, it is possible to do both, but you have to be, again, very creative with the time. In that second 16-week term, students aren't taking any classes, so they're just working on field work. I do suggest that you do have flexibility, though, so you want to let your employer know that you do you do need time to complete field work. If you complete field work over the 2 16-week terms, that's equivalent to about 20 hours a week of field work. So you do have to realize that you want to be able to complete those hours during a school day. So, but yes, to answer the question, most students do complete their field work and other requirements for the program while working full-time.
Yeah, so educational psychology with ABA specialization. ABA is Applied Behavior Analysis, and that is the educational requirements for the Board Certified Behavior Analyst, which is at the bottom there, BCBA, Board Certified Behavior Analyst. ERMC is educational psychology with educationally related mental health counseling, is what that stands for. So that's the educational requirements for the licensed professional clinical counselor, which is what the LPCC stands for.
Students usually complete 2 classes per term. So we're looking at a total of 16, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 12. 14 units a year for school counseling. I think it's the same for school psych, right?
It would be, well, that first year you're taking 2 per term, which also includes the summer, so it's 5 terms. So it's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 at 30. It's 30 units for the entire year, actually.
Oh, I was counting classes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's 3 units per class,
right.
And you would take 2 classes per term. So, and we have 2 terms per semester, right? They're 8-week terms. So that means you're taking 12 units per semester throughout the program.
And graduate financial aid, if you fill out your FAFSA, and you can talk to our student financial services about this, but if you fill out the FAFSA, then you can qualify for $20,400 per academic year, I believe. And so I will include in a follow-up email contact information for our graduate financial aid so that you can talk to them. But yes, there are financial aid options. I believe it's $20,400 per academic year. And then the cost for the program is strictly by unit, and it's $770 per unit. And we also have some scholarships and grants also available, and your student financial aid counselor can also give you that information.
To enter the program, yeah, we are looking at a GPA of 3.0. And so sometimes we can accept students conditionally. So I would say if you're close to that, apply anyway, because we can review the application. We look at the whole person. We look at, the entire experience, and sometimes there's bumps in the road for the undergraduate program completion. So yeah, but we are looking at a GPA of 3.0 or higher.
So thank you again, everyone, for your time, and we hope that this is beneficial for you.